Hey everybody, it's Caleb Hale and Anna Toomey with the SIU Alumni Association. Hope everyone had a good holiday season and first of the year since we haven't really done this since the Christmas break. But of course we're back again today with another episode of Saluki Sleuths. This time we are talking about Gus Bode. And Anna, I'll let you kind of introduce that, and then we've got a clip to kind of set up what we're talking about.
Yeah, Caleb, this was a really fun one. And we've had a little bit of a break here and a chance to recoup. And Gus Bode is one I think we've been hearing from people from the beginning since we started this series. They wanted to see Gus Bode. So it's going to be an entertaining one. We'll give you guys a little taste of it in this video clip.
For me, at least, Gus is, just another student.
He evolves with the generations, but the voice remains pithy.
This is our life-size Gus Bode that I helped create.
The head is actually my favorite part, specifically the sunglasses.
They became almost like this official mascot of sorts.
So Gus Bode, a person with no mouth but with a lot to say, ironically.
That's a good one.
And I think if people were kind of wondering, wait a minute, what is Gus Bode again? I'm sure one of those images probably rekindled a memory from them from reading the Daily Egyptian in the past. You saw those. So, I mean, Anna, what did we find out about Gus and his history here?
Exactly. And in that short clip you guys saw, you will have noticed the changes Gus has gone through. I mean, he's been around for, I did the math, 67 years. So the first time Gus appeared was in 1956. He wasn't drawn yet at that time, though. So he started out as just like a quote in the newspaper, Gus Bode says. And then over the decades, he was then illustrated in 1962 and then would kind of change with the times, which you can see in the visuals. I think that was the funnest part for me in editing this, Caleb, was like just kind of seeing how he's changed. And like you can definitely tell like when it's the 70s and the 80s versus like early 2000s, like the hairstyles definitely match. So this episode digs all the way back to 1956. We look at why Gus Bode was started, who started him, and we answer the question that a lot of people who are not involved with the DE ask, which is Gus Bode a real person? Well, it kind of depends on who you ask. I mean, in spirit, he's real, but technically he's just a cartoon. He was based off of a real person, though. And in this episode, we're going to get into the details of that and kind of explain why Gus Bode again was created, who he was, and there's a World War II connection too. That was very interesting to me. So we're going to get into that in this episode.
Well, I can tell you from experience, Gus Bode, I mean, he's been real enough throughout the years to, get a couple laughs and make people angry as well. So, I mean,
that's right. Absolutely. And there's been, I mean, when you ask people, there's mixed opinions. I mean, if you're a real big Gus Bode fan, I mean, most people will say like, he's pretty much on point. He captures the attitudes of students. And then there's sometimes people get mad. And we talk about one of those instances in the newspaper. It was a comment, I think it was early 1970s, where he referred to women as chicks. And that caused a whole outrage incident that involved a storming of the newsroom. I laugh because it's funny. Nobody was hurt. It's all good. But there were some instances like that where people paid attention to Gus and wanted to let the DE know when they were not happy with his comment of the day.
Yeah, you can imagine anything that has been around for 6 decades has definitely evolved over the years. I mean, 67, it's about 67 to 70 years worth of history that this figure has been making comments on. And that's not just campus news, that's also on national matters, as well. So
Exactly.
you can imagine if you were to take Gus's first comment and his last comment, and run them through, reading them all, I mean, I'm sure he would contradict himself ideologically at times because of
Exactly.
just opinions and attitudes.
Exactly. No, and you really do see that in the comments. Is just over time, people's attitudes change, beliefs about the world change. And, something we asked our interviewees in this episode is, how do you think Gus Bode has lasted 6 decades, right? I mean, that's pretty cool for something to last that long. I mean, there's, unlike buildings here on campus that have been here and are now no longer here, Gus has outlived some of them. It's just like, it's really cool. But when you ask people how he survived, it's really because the DE has made it about the students. They've let the students create him. A student draws him, a student writes him, and faculty weigh in, but it has always been by the students for the students, right? And so he lives on through just the new students that come into the DE every year. So it's like a never-ending cycle.
Right. And I mentioned this when we were doing some of our interviews with folks involved at the Daily Egyptian. Gus Bode, in many ways, he was kind of, I want to say he was kind of prescient of what was coming in terms of the discourse of the day and how people consume and comment on the news, because he's almost like a proto-Twitter figure that existed in the paper. Just pretty small, pithy little clips that he made throughout any sort of publication throughout the week, and you kind of see that. Well, you see that all the time now.
Exactly. It is the style now, that Twitter style, where it's just have a quick comment. He's been doing that since the 1950s. So I think he really was ahead of the time on that. And I looked into other examples of like a Gus Bode. We interviewed the current faculty manager. She's worked in local and national newsrooms all over the country. She says, I've never seen something like this. Newspapers have the editorial page, right? But they've never had a character that kind of speaks in this way. And I know some of the people we interviewed even said, Gus was the opportunity to say something that might be a little risky, maybe didn't want to state in the paper, but then it's Gus, right? He can say it.
Gus is a lot of times the catharsis that, any frustrated journalist would be happy to take advantage of. But, sometimes, speaking as a former journalist, or both of us as journalists ourselves, sometimes you got to temper that. You got to temper those opinions sometimes.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, we've got the episode posted now so people can watch it. Where can they find it?
Yes, so that's on our Facebook. That's a post you guys can watch there. YouTube, people like to go there and watch it. So it's all posted right now. This is like pinned at the top of our YouTube page as well. So the second you go to SIU Alumni Association on YouTube, you'll be able to see it there. Facebook. It's also on Twitter as well. So we post it everywhere, and it lives on our YouTube. So beyond today, I would say kind of the easiest way to find this episode would be via YouTube.
So watch it now, watch it later. But I mean, I think it'll be, it's definitely a fun 10 or so minutes trip down memory lane. And I'm sure lots of people will remember, I'm sure something Gus Bode has said over the years is sticking with them. I'm thinking of things that I saw throughout the paper when I was here in the late 90s and early 2000s and stuff. Stuff. So
exactly.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. And like I said, you can watch this episode online. Plus, we have just our entire back catalog of other videos that we've done. The most recent one prior to this was the Varsity Theater. Prior to that was the really big adventure into the steam tunnels that we did back in November.
There's some good ones.
And you can just kind of go back through there. I don't even, I've lost count as to where we are on this right now.
Yeah, we're at like episode 9, I think, at this point. So we're keeping it rolling.
So you've got half a dozen or more if you're wanting to get caught up. And all of this is from SIU stories and history we learn about from alumni. So as you'll hear our executive director Jeff say at the end, we're always looking for new ideas of this as well. We've got a healthy list, and we're taking new ideas all the time, and we're not necessarily afraid to bump something up the line if it's
absolutely.
So with that, Anna, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, just enjoy, everybody. Thanks for watching these, and please, we look for your comments and your ideas, and if there's anything you can add to this episode that I missed or didn't catch, please do, because I want to know, and we can all kind of add to the history of it that way.
All right. So everyone, happy midweek. Have a good rest of the week, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.